but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house. And StreamYard, I got a glitch. I'm going to pick your bone in a little bit there because I was like, what the heck is going on? We had a timer, then we had the intro. We were like, what's going on over here? But welcome guys to Tea Time with Miss Liz. Today I have an incredible returning guest, and you know how Miss Liz loves returning guests. I have Eric Fisher in the house. We're going to talk about Buried Alive in his other second book, and he's got them. So you guys are going to see them from his side and his screen today. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to all those platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Clapper, Lemonade, Blue Sky, all of those other ones I haven't mentioned. You guys know where they are. Give those a like, follow, subscribe, and get these tea times out there because they do make a difference for the guests and for anyone that resonates with the stories that come to the tea time table. Also, jump over to the podcast apps: Podbean, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, Spotify, and all the ones I haven't mentioned. Miss Liz on there too, so check those out. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe. Also, check out babyboomers.org because Miss Liz has partnered up with them. If you're looking to be featured on a different podcast and Miss Liz doesn't bring you the flavor that you're looking for, there's over 50 different podcasts over there on babyboomers.org, and I've been partnered with them for about 3 years now. So check those guys out as well. Let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And we're going to get Eric in here and we're going to spill his tea. And his tea is curious, adventurous, and mindful. And then we're going to spill about his books Buried Alive as well. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree in Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you're ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories remind us that some of life's greatest lessons are learned not when everything goes right, but when we find the strength to rise after being knocked down. Today's guest brings us a powerful message of resilience, recovery, healing, and hope. Please join me in welcoming back Eric Fisher for his second appearance. Author, counseling therapist, trauma specialist, and advocate for mental wellness, whose work helps individuals navigate recovery, grief, addictions, trauma, and life's most difficult challenges. Based in Calgary, Alberta, Eric has spent more than 15 years working in both inpatient and outpatient treatment settings, helping people rebuild their lives through evidence-based therapies and compassionate support. He is trained in trauma-focused approaches, including EMDR and accelerate resolution therapy. Eric is the author of The Martial Arts of Recovery and Buried Alive: 4 Ways to Free Yourself from the Dirt. His latest book tells the true story of his father being accidentally buried alive and uses that extraordinary survival story as framework for exploring resilience, grief, shame, recovery, connection, and personal growth. His favorite message is recovery is possible, resilience can be learned, and healing begins with connection. Today's Tea Time will explore the true story behind Buried Alive, building resilience through adversity, mental wellness and recovery, grief, healing, and personal growth, and finding purpose after life's hardest moments. Eric reminds us that sometimes life buries us beneath challenges we never expected. What matters is learning how to rise again. So grab your cup and join us for a powerful conversation filled with courage, healing, and real-life tea, truth, experience, and awareness. Let me get Eric in here. Let's spill some tea. Welcome, Eric.
Hi, Miss Liz. Hello once again. Happy Tuesday to you.
Let me see. Do I got you back? Do.
Testing,
Is
testing.
he here? Is he here? Can you hear me, Eric?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I got you. See,
Awesome.
sometimes I'm telling you, StreamYard, you're going to get a bone picked with Miss Liz today.
A big jawbone.
Right? We were talking about this before we went live. I got to piss off one person a day, and I think it's going to be StreamYard today.
Oh, it's good to see you again.
It is nice to see you, Eric. Well, for my first-time listeners that might have not seen your first tea time, tell them a little bit about who Eric was as a little guy and who Eric is now.
Eric, as a little guy, was adventurous and curious and imaginative and enjoyed being outside and didn't really like transitions too much. Having to move from like Arkansas to Tennessee at a young age, I did not favor that at all. And nowadays, I do enjoy adventure. I do enjoy change a lot more than what I used to, even though change can still be difficult for me. And yeah, I do enjoy being outside. I was outside doing some hiking a few weeks ago with a friend at a place called Grotto Canyon in Canmore, Alberta, and just this last weekend at a place called Troll Falls, which has 3 different waterfalls kind of further up on an incline. So that's a little bit about yours truly. Yeah.
You went to the waterfalls without me. What are you
I
doing,
know.
Eric?
I know. I just couldn't wait up. I just said, I'm just going to have to do this one solo,
Oh my goodness. I'll just let Miss Liz know about it later.
Yes. Forgiveness rather than permission to that whole thing, Yeah.
Well, Eric, let's get into, let's talk about what inspired the martial arts of recovery. Let's get into that book first, and then we'll get into Buried Alive, because our first tea time, we talked about Buried Alive, but we didn't get to talk too much about this book. So let's talk about this book.
Yeah, so this is the book cover there. I know Miss Liz mentioned that I would have them, and here's the cover. First book took about 14 months or so to develop, write, fully edit, release. No AI was used, which I know nowadays can be really hard to imagine. So I do implement my experience with martial arts, and I develop these techniques and concepts for mental health and substance use recovery from these martial arts techniques and concepts. So I translate the martial arts pieces over to recovery and mental wellness, brain health, if you will. And so a lot of metaphor, a lot of wordplay. So for example, Thundering Hammers is the martial arts technique. Thundering Uncertainty, which is a quote white belt technique in the book, that's like the first technique of the 66 techniques that someone learns, is thundering uncertainty, and being able to be not afraid of uncertainty, but what uncertainty means on the journey. How can I learn to be curious about uncertainty and how to work on uncertainty? So that's a little bit about the book there.
Thundering Hammer. Can you tell me a little bit about more of that?
Well, Thundering Hammers is an actual martial arts technique. And so, it's kind of like a sword in martial arts is like a sword hand. Thundering Hammers can be a certain type of motion. Usually I think it's with the hands. And so there's just different word usages for different words. And so that's it's I won't go into like what it actually is a defense against, yet it's a martial arts technique. Yeah.
So did you find martial arts helped you get through your trauma, Eric?
Uh well, I mean, just going through my life with overwhelming events, I wouldn't say that I've had like some like debilitating trauma where I needed to get like EMDR or ART or like some really severe treatment. Yet it, martial arts helped me develop balance. It helped me develop curiosity, self-control, discipline, because, practicing with folks can't get too far away from them with practicing moves, but I don't want to get too close and actually hit them too. And yes, that did happen sometimes. So
I kick you to the side.
yeah. So sometimes toward me and with them. One guy actually got hit upside the nose once with a screamer stick when we were practicing with these sticks, like wooden sticks. He had to be taken to the hospital. So it's being able to understand self-control is important. I was really passive doing martial arts, and so part of my work was finding that assertiveness between, oh, here we are, got to spar. I don't want to spar. I'm really passive, but not going to the place of being super aggressive with it either. And I talk about it in my book of being too aggressive in certain instances and feeling guilty as an outcome because of kicking my dad's knee out because I was too aggressive. It was a cheap shot, So being able to understand that balance when it comes to, well, literally balance doing different forms in martial arts, different stances, but also the balance with self-control and the balance when it comes to just understanding how far to go in a situation. So, yeah.
Eric, let's talk about the word recovery. What does recovery mean to you?
Recovery to me means healing. Recovery to me means freedom. Recovery to me means growth, even amidst difficult circumstances. Recovery to me means, hey, you know what? I fell, literally. If you're doing martial arts, like I fell on the ground. I'm going to get back up, metaphorically and literally, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be curious. Recovery means being able to continue on a trajectory despite the challenging circumstances, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, all those different aspects. Yeah. And with the work I do as a therapist, I mean, I've been through some difficult situations working with folks, such as someone dying by suicide. And there is a certain level of recovery that has to happen working in this profession. And that goes into a lot of emotional navigation and finding support with other professionals and other people outside of the work and being able to find a resurgence.
Yeah, the reason, Eric, I asked you what recovery means to you, because when people hear the word recovery, they just think of addictions. They don't think of all the different types of recovery, just like they don't think of all the different types of grief, all the different types of trauma. We talked about this in your first tea time, but we didn't really get into it really deep. So maybe today we can get into it a little deeper. But we do have some questions coming in, and I'd like to get those out to you first. And then we'll get into a little deeper into the word recovery, because your work is recovery arts counseling, right? So you use the word recovery even in your work. So from Banter Show, healing, resilience, and self-mastery. What an amazing combination for today's discussion. Thank you, Banter, for tuning in. We have a question here from Johnny. Looking forward to learning about trauma recovery and resilience. What inspired Eric to focus on this field?
I was able to learn some different modalities with psychotherapy for trauma recovery. And that helped build my resilience with working professionally in the field, that, hey, I actually have these different modalities I can use, because before that, I felt like I was kind of flying by the skin of my teeth, kind of winging it, so to speak, with some individuals with trauma. Now top down and bottom up approaches, body based approaches, bottom up, top down, cognitive approaches, and also these different modalities like EMDR and ART have really allowed me to focus on understanding how to work with folks with trauma, either single incident or multiple incident, childhood trauma, etc. And as far as resiliency is concerned, as far as coming into the field, it's something that it always interested me when it comes to just human behavior. I mean, I have certain extended family members where, their mental wellness was a challenge, and I've always wondered, like, what could have helped them? And it's trying to find the answers that what could have helped that particular person,
Well, but many years ago, right, mental illness was a silent, right? You didn't speak about it. Whatever happened behind closed doors, stayed behind closed doors. And a lot of things that were like expressed as anger or rebellious or stuff like that wasn't diagnosed as mental illnesses, right? Voices and drinking and addictions. And I found that years ago, a lot of addictions were covered up because they didn't have those proper diagnoses. Are you working like with older people or younger people in your work?
Mostly adults, 18 to 65-ish. I do have some experience working with the younger folk, and they do teach me a lot, especially about patience.
Miss Liz, I'm not.
Yeah.
Miss Liz is sidekick and everybody to the side. I got to read that martial art book, and I got to get some patience.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
The reason that I asked what age you work with, Eric, is because a lot of people are being late diagnosis, right, with mental illnesses in today's world, like with BPD and DID and schizophrenia, multiple personality disorders. Why do you feel the older generation is now feeling comfortable to even get diagnosed?
There's been a big push for getting away from the stigma when it comes to support with mental wellness, with brain health. All these grassroots organizations, kind of like the Thumbs Up Foundation and Airdrie that I contract with, they really push, even with certain public events, to show that, they do this Peace in the Park event where they get these bands to come and actually do songs, and they, it's a public event, and it's advocating for mental health awareness, brain health awareness. And so I do think that's a big part of it as well. And I think the older generation is also saying, whoa, this younger generation is totally on it, especially maybe their kids or their grandkids. They know these terms that, like, what is that? Like my subjective units of disturbance today is an 8, and they're like, what? How do you even know that term? So I do believe that the young can also teach the old, and the old are starting to say, okay, because of media, even with TV shows from a media standpoint, even though it may not be quite, it's quite fictional, and just the advocacy work that's happening, and just counseling and therapy in general is less stigmatized now. It's kind of strange for someone to say that they don't think they need a therapist. Like one gentleman I work with, he was about to leave work, and he was talking to another coworker. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to therapy." And then he actually said, that's what the person said to him. And he's like, "Yeah, me too." And they're both men. And they were like, "Oh yeah, okay. Like we can talk about it." But at first it was like, "Yeah, I'm going to a therapist appointment." "Yeah, me too." So it's just coming, even around the water cooler, it's becoming more publicly recognized.
And more relaxed as well, right? Where it's not like, I'm going to a therapist.
Right?
Don't tell my wife.
Yes. Don't tell her at all.
What do you mean you're going through
or someone's reading a book on self-help or something, and then their spouse is like, "What is that?" And then the spouse says, "Well, it's a book." It's like, okay, I got it.
Yeah. 20 years ago it would have been, put that book away. What are you talking about?
And that's like, okay, all right, good for you. Yeah.
Always love when we have our conversations because you just never know where we go, guys. It's when I talk to you, Eric, I feel like we've known each other for years and we understand trauma and recovery in a different way than a lot of people do. We're able to talk about it, even with the deep wounds and scars and that as well. Let's talk a little bit about Buried Alive, and then we're going to jump into some more questions about the work that you do. So if you want to hold up the book Buried Alive and tell us a little bit about that book for all the first-time listeners.
Yeah, so Buried Alive is about, it's interweaving some different psychological self-help concepts into an incident that happened with my father, who was accidentally buried alive during a incident where him and two friends were digging for Native American artifacts, arrowheads. And so I do go through all three of their perspectives were interviewed. They were actually videotaped, documentary style, individually. Back in 2005, the incident happened in 2000. And so I transcribed word for word without any AI help. I had to keep on rewinding the tape to get it typed out with their thick Southern accents. So I get all three perspectives, which is part of each chapter, except for I think the last chapter of the book or so. And I also bring in those concepts like the importance of balance, the importance of the CIA concept, curiosity, introspection, and agency. And I apply that to what happened, but also I apply how can we use those concepts in everyday life too. So that's what the book's about, is showing that even through a really difficult, harrowing near-death experience, that someone came out the other end, can talk about that experience now. And it's about getting away from the dirt that we can get buried into in our own lives: guilt, shame, addiction, trauma, depression, things like that.
Well, we have a question here for you, Eric, from Roy. What has been the most rewarding part of that journey?
As far as the book is concerned, I would say getting to talk with my dad a lot more about the experience, and even doing an interview 24 years after the incident that I did in the last few years as part of the book, and hearing his thoughts again was really rewarding because it was a really big part of my life when I was a teenager when this occurred, and just being able to connect with him a little bit more so on that. And he actually wrote me a really nice, he signed the book for me, and I didn't read it for several weeks, and then I read it and I was like, oh, it was really endearing and heartwarming, and it was nice to connect on that level with him that way.
So when you wrote this book, did your father read the book?
He did, which is a super anxiety enriching experience for me. I'm like, oh man. He's like, there's just one thing, Eric, and it was a technical thing in regards to the digging aspect for the artifacts. And I was like, okay, all right, well, it's good to know. Yeah, so he appreciated it. He enjoyed it. He was looking for it in the airport bookstore. I was like, no, you're not going to find it there. But, yeah.
You find all the gossip magazines at the airport.
Yes. Not in the gossip section.
We have a question here for you, Eric, and it is, what is the biggest misconception people have about recovery and healing?
How quick that's going to come, and that it's not usually going to come quick.
Because everyone's healing journey is different, right? Everyone's recovery journey. Some might heal in 30 days, some might heal in 30 years. You just never know, right? Until you get into therapy and you start doing the work yourself. We have a question here for you, Eric, is how do trauma and addiction often connect beneath the surface?
Trauma and addiction connecting underneath the surface. Well, they both have their own triggers for sure. They are similar in that aspect. Although, sometimes if someone doesn't work on the trauma first, if they don't work on addiction first, if they actually go into trauma work, they can be a trigger to actually act out through mood altering substances. And so if at all possible, I will try to work with folks with, you know, the substance use or whatever behavior is addictive first, because if that's not help, then they might move toward that a lot more susceptibly. Both can have their own types of flashbacks per se, like images from the past, images with using, but also flashback images with the really overwhelming experiences. There can be a lot of shame with both, but the shame comes differently from addiction, where it's like, I'm a bad person because I did this with a substance, and trauma is more like, you know, I feel so shameful for going through this experience that I had no control over, that was done toward me, usually. Maybe it's another person, like an abuser, or through a natural incident, something I don't have control over. So I mean, that can happen too with addiction, where there is a certain lack of control as well. So there is a few pieces with the shame and the guilt, that similarities and differences. And I would say also with the two that the journey for both is not going to be it's not going to be quick as far as recovery for either one, and that's okay. And I do believe that self-love is a huge component. Self-compassion is a huge component for both.
How do we learn self-love, Eric?
I talk about it actually in this book here. That's actually one of the what's called 5 swords in this book. And one of the 5 swords is called self-love vitality. I'll just give a few. One of them is knowing my limits. It's okay to have limits, because sometimes if we go beyond what we have as a limit, we say yes when we would rather say no. Then sometimes we could beat ourselves up later. We're like, man, why did I go that way when I should have said no? Or why did I say no when I could have actually done something to help myself out? So that can be a part. Also, just doing 1 or 2, 3 self-care practices each day, stacking those small wins, you know, keeping it simple, keeping it achievable, realistic, can be helpful for self-love. Doing those actions, behaving the way that I'd like to feel.
So, Eric, when you wrote the book, Martial Arts, The Martial Art of Recovery, were you thinking of your journey when you wrote that book, or were you thinking of the clients that you work with?
For the martial art of recovery, more so with the clients that I've worked with. I have my own skeletons in the closet when it comes to that topic. However, it was more so I wanted to bring together the elements of martial arts, was just huge for me as a preteen and a teenager growing up, and then bringing that into addiction, but also trauma, anxiety, and depression, which is big parts of the book too. They're called disquiet, distress, and darkness as chapters in the book. Those 3 being those 3: depression, anxiety, trauma. So I wanted to bring together some concepts, techniques that I knew, with some pieces that I was working with in the field.
Yeah, let's talk about the film, because it was made into a film, correct?
Talk about I'm sorry?
Buried Alive. Did you make it into a film?
Oh, no, there was no film. I mean, yeah, I made a documentary for sure. Yes. Yes, I did do a documentary with all 3 of their interviews together. That's the only film that's been made. Yeah.
Well, documentary is still a film.
Yes, yes. I was 21 when I did the film. Yes, it was pretty cool to get all 3 of their perspectives. And you know, it's interesting, you know, one of those gentlemen, and it's in the book, you know, they do, after that incident, like, he didn't go back to do the digging. He totally was done. And another gentleman who was actually injured as well as my dad, just wasn't buried alive. I believe he did go back. So it's interesting how there was an effect from it's the same incident.
Right? Same trauma, but 2 different outcomes.
Absolutely, yes. And being able to respect that's where they're at.
Well, and that's kind of like the healing journey for someone, right? Same addiction, but two different outcomes, two different resources, two different therapies, healing journeys in that as well. We have a question here from Kyle, and it is, recovery arts counseling sounds like a meaningful work. How did Eric come up with that name?
Martial arts. So I just changed the martial to recovery, and because of my experience with martial arts, I was like, oh yeah, that would be kind of a, cool name, and also give that applicable piece about healing and growth. So, yeah.
And we have a question here from Bubbles Old Channel. How does someone know when they're truly beginning the healing process?
A lot of times other people will know before you do.
Interesting.
So I've had people tell me, yeah, they told me that they've been seeing this, or like, yeah, you seem a lot more engaged or a lot more focused, or you seem a lot more like less depressed and more joyous, or something like that. Like, oh yeah, thanks for sharing that with me. So that is one part. Another part is just simply knowing that you're doing a little bit less maybe a particular behavior, or you're making one different decision than you did the other day that's beneficial to you. That can also show you and me, anyone, that I am starting this because I did that one thing differently today than yesterday. And sometimes that's the harder choice. So if you're doing more of the harder choices than the easier choices, even a small hard choice, that shows you too. Yeah.
Interesting that other people notice, right? That we're getting therapy before we realize we're getting therapy.
Right?
You're different.
I know, because we just can't see it,
You bought me flowers. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. That's why I bought flowers for, right? Yeah.
Next week I'll buy you a flower pot. We have a question here from Nick, and it is, did that shape his approach to counseling?
As far as martial arts is concerned, I would say that with recovery arts counseling, yes, it does consciously and unconsciously shape my approach to counseling, as far as knowing that with people learning different strategies, techniques, more about themselves, it's a growth process, just like learning techniques, concepts. With martial arts, it's definitely a growth process. I have been sideswept, and then I'm starting to see the ceiling, and then my back hits the mat, doing sparring with the instructor. Sometimes that's what it's like with counseling, where it's like, well, I didn't see that coming. And that's part of the empathic process. So I can have empathy with folks going through some difficult challenges, because I myself have been through difficult challenges with both people I've worked with in the past professionally, but also experiences I've had in the past. So with martial arts and other experiences. Yeah.
Well, we have a question here from Brandon Vincent. Is the focus on compassion is beautiful. In your experience, Eric, how important is self-compassion during recovery?
No, it's super important, Brandon. And I would say along with that, I recently learned from this neuroscientist, Dr. Rosenbaum, that it's okay to try to pursue self-compassion within yourself, yet to a certain point, we need to look at finding another conduit outside of ourselves for self-compassion. So we can easily burn ourselves out if that's the only route is within. And so he talked about being able to have a person, a deity, some type of symbolic figure, and having maybe some kind of like a compassion guided meditation, like insert name or title, please give me love, joy, peace, let me be free of suffering, and to actually bring it from another entity, which I thought was amazing. That means I don't have to depend fully on me for that self-compassion. I can bring it from another source. And so it is absolutely important for recovery, for mental wellness. If I can't give compassion to others, I'm going to have a hard time giving that to myself. So that has to be looked at. Yes, I mean, it can't be overstated how important it is to not be motivated just by self-criticism, even though we might start there. We need to start looking at, okay, compassion doesn't give me a free reign. It doesn't it doesn't mean that I can just do whatever I want toward other people or myself. It means, okay, I'm taking responsibility. I'm being firm with myself. I'm being centered within myself. And I'm going to take it a little bit more easier than I did yesterday on me.
Eric, with the book, The Martial Arts of Recovery, what do you want the readers to get from that book?
With the martial art of recovery, I do hope that people just find a innovative, creative direction that also has some applicable practical concepts for their journey in recovery. And that could be with depression, trauma, anxiety, as well as substances or behaviors that are addictive. That's my hope.
And Eric, what do you want the readers to get from Buried Alive?
I would hope that readers get something similar from Buried Alive as far as some practical concepts for their own well-being. I would say with that, though, that they look at the dirt in their lives as not something that's like shameful to have experienced, but not to spiral in the shame. Yet finding those tools so you don't have to spiral in the shame. You can notice it, sit with it, and then find some ways to move through that dirt back up to the surface. And that's my hope.
And Eric, what are ART and EMDR therapies, and why are they effective?
Oh boy, maybe you can spend the rest of the time on.
I'll just sit back and relax.
I don't want to preach, I don't want to preach. I don't want to. We can spend the rest of the time on that question. So really quickly, EMDR's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Say that 4 times real fast. And ART is accelerated resolution therapy. ART came along around 2012, 2013 by Lainey Rosenzweig. And she was getting trained in EMDR, which has been around since the 80s, I believe. It's evidence-focused or evidence-based, trauma-informed, evidence-based psychotherapy that uses bilateral stimulation, eye movements, or either tapping or bilateral, like audio, bilaterally, to help with traumatic events, anxiety, and other concerns. ART is used for traumatic events as well, and that therapy, ART, changes negative images to positive images in the brain. So the adage is, keep the knowledge but lose the pain. In both treatments, people don't forget what they've been through traumatically. They are able to put something else in front of those memories, and so there is relief, there's freedom, there's less intrusive, invasive symptoms, and there's less of a need to avoid certain people, places, or things, because it's like taking the bullet out of the wound. It allows somebody to heal. Those memories are put into the past where they belong. They're on the bookshelf now. They're not underneath the couch collecting dust.
So how long does it take to do both therapies?
ART I did with somebody just last week, and I was able to do that in like a 2-hour time span. So I could do a single 90-minute session with ART and take care of a traumatic event, past, present, future, past event, present sensations, and then a future trigger connected to that event. EMDR is a little bit more, it takes a little bit more time with the amount of sessions. It could take 5 to 10, 6 to 10 sessions for a single memory, and that's going really quickly with that therapy to go past, present, future, and different terminology when it comes to the future, different terminology in both therapies. So ART is a lot more accelerated, not to be, no pun intended, and EMDR is definitely takes a lot more time with 8 different phases with the classical approach to the work with the therapy.
So Eric, your business is called Recovery Arts Counselling. Is that where the art came in, or is it from the martial arts?
That came from martial arts. Yeah, the recovery arts came from martial arts. Yes.
So
Yeah.
So has martial arts saved your life?
Gave me a purpose for sure, and gave me direction, and gave me some skills. I don't know if it necessarily saved my life as far as from what I've experienced as a human being, yet it's given me a lot of, different skills and techniques, and just a way to look at life where I I don't take things as seriously, or I have a defense, if you will. As a Christian, spiritually speaking, I look at like saving my life from that vantage point. And so there's different ways I look at that.
Well, we have a couple more questions that just came in, and your Molo, Eric, have you noticed common habits among people who successfully build long-term resilience?
Yeah, I've seen successful habits for sure. They find the joy in the little things. They are able to they're able to really reframe things that happen to them, on the daily, in a quick succession, at least within that day. They also have supportive people surrounding them, the people in their boardroom, metaphorically speaking. They're there to support. Yet at the same time, they know how to be with themselves, by themselves, for themselves, in solitude, and being okay with that. If they want to go to a movie by themselves, they'll do that. They don't feel like they need to always have someone with them. It's great, yet it's okay to do that. And they know their limits. They cultivate that self-compassion for themselves through activities, mindset. The people they hang out with are compassionate toward themselves as well. And they have those boundaries in place, which can't be overstated as far as limits for them. So those are a few of the pieces I would say for long-term resilience.
Well, Eric, let's talk about your writing journey. We have a question here from Todd, and it is, how has writing influenced your own healing and growth journey?
Oh yeah, Todd, I've been writing since I was 12, 13. I remember writing my first screenplay when I used to do screenplays a lot more frequently, and I let my dad read it, and I just so embarrassed looking back at that. Like, man, I definitely had some growth from that screenplay to, the recent ones. And so, yeah, poetry was a big part of, my way of just working through, unsettling emotions as a preteen, as a teen growing up, doing short stories, going into screenplay writing. It was just a huge outlet for me in my 20s and 30s. I got to go down to California to shoot a proof of concept film based on a proof of concept script that I did. That was a great experience. And so, yeah, just ways to connect with people, because I did co-writing as well, which is a huge piece for just me being able to be part of a community, eh? And yeah, so it's been a really major part, and it continues to play a major part, more so now that I'm doing the publishing of books.
We've never really talked about your screenwriting journey on the last time we were together. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how old were you when you got into that, Eric?
Yeah, I was around 15 when I did my first one. I didn't know what I was doing, fly by the seat of my pants. I was like, what am I doing? And then I would put these on American Zoetrope and get feedback, and I would just despise the feedback I would get sometimes. Like, I would get so defensive. And I would actually, as time went on, I could just take it as feedback. I worked with an agent as well, and he was interesting. I remember him giving me this one piece of advice: don't be afraid to kill your darlings. And that means more white on the page, by the way. That's what that means. That means don't be afraid to cut that little line of dialogue, perhaps, or to cut that action description portion. Make that slug line a little more concise. Don't be afraid to kill your darlings, Eric. And I was like, well, okay, fine. I get it, but I don't like it. I want to keep that dialogue. I don't want to. Don't be married to it, And so I think that even has that is a mental wellness component as well. That, hey, maybe this relationship is not great for me. I might need to cut that person. As an addiction doctor once said, maybe you need a parentectomy, which means cutting a certain toxic parent out of your life for a particular period of time, short or long term. Parentectomy. It's not a real medical procedure. It's just a play on words.
I was going to say, it sounds like a sexy dinosaur.
Triceratops.
The things that run through my mind.
Parendectomosaurus, Triceratops. Yeah, there we go.
Miss Liz is having visions of sexy dinosaurs right now.
We'll roll with it,
We have a question here from Matt. What advice would you give someone supporting a loved one through recovery?
I had this question on a podcast I did recently, and it's always one that there's no clear-cut solution as far as like the perfect way to help a family member that's going through recovery. I would say, first and foremost, don't forget to actually get the support that you need as well if you are a family member helping someone else through their own recovery journey, whether that's through Alateen for teenagers or Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, for adults that have family members going through their own recovery journey. And also having your own boundaries, your own limits with them is important. Not being a rescuer, yet you can still help. Just not rescuing at the expense of myself is super important when it comes to being a family member of someone going through this journey. And just being curious to learn what they are going through, if they're willing to also share that with you. And that goes back into boundaries too. You respect maybe their own boundaries. Also, it's the old adage, attraction rather than promotion. And that goes into that self-care for me. They get to see you're taking care of you. So you have the ability, they have the ability to look at, okay, I need to take care of me too. No, I don't get any money for this, but there is a book called Pro-Dependency by Robert Weiss. I would highly recommend that to anybody that wants a different spin on the codependency label term. Codependency has different word usage. It comes from an attachment-based perspective, where instead of the word enabling, it's the term deeply involved. And that's part of that language from that book. It just makes things less pathological. I think knowing too, just because you want to rush to someone's aid does not mean that you have a pathological disorder. That just means you really care about this person. Okay, and just remember that. Yeah.
Eric, have you ever heard of the triangle effect with recovery?
I do not think so. You have to inform me.
It's for the enablers, like the family members, right? I did therapy.
Triangulation, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Where they tell you don't fall into the path of the triangle, right? Don't enable, take the shame, the blame. Because a lot of family members or loved ones, they take that shame and that guilt and they're, why did this happen again? Why now? Could you tell a little bit about the triangle for my listeners out there?
Yeah, so when it comes to triangulation, when people are in heavy, active addiction, when the addict self, if I can use that language, is a lot more at the forefront. The addict self wants to triangulate, wants to manipulate, let's say, one party in order to affect another party. And so that could be with stonewalling or withholding, or creating drama, or minimizing or justifying certain actions, saying that they're crazy. It really goes into gaslighting, actually. And there's around at least 8 different symptoms, if you will, of gaslighting. And yes, one of those is trivializing, which means that that second person tells the other person, hey, it's not really a big deal what they did. Our son is just going through a phase right now, just a hard time. So there can be this triangulating to affect 2 different parties through gaslighting effects. And yes, that can cause its own, ordeals for people.
Yeah, because I always, I have a couple of family members that have addictions and that. And then I kind of put it onto myself, right? I put the blame on, or I justify the action. Oh, it wasn't so bad. They were having a bad time. It was that time of year again. I was always justifying. And through my therapy, I was told not to fall into that triangle.
Yeah. Yeah. I can be involved with someone, yet I can't buy into it. Don't buy, as it said, don't buy tickets to my own show, and don't want to buy tickets to their show either when they're in active addiction. So yes, having those boundaries in place, having assertive communication is important when it comes to when that's happening, and being able to be aware, oh yeah, okay, this is happening. Yeah.
And setting those boundaries is really hard, especially when you're with the loved ones, right? And living it every day, it's really hard to put those boundaries in there.
That is so tough. It is so tough because we really want someone. We don't want to see someone go further down. At the same time, we don't want ourselves to go down either with them. It's really difficult. Our feelings are one of 3 things. We either take on someone's feelings, we're having a dysfunctional emotional response where we minimize a feeling or we maximize a feeling, mountain of a molehill of a mountain, or it's actually our feeling. We have to ask ourselves, which of those 3 maybe is happening, And that's what happens often with that triangulation. We take on their pity or their shame or their whatever that is.
Well, we're kind of not in the present as well, right? We're kind of like in our own little world trying to figure it out, and then we put it onto ourselves, right? So we're just kind of like not saying that it is as bad as it is, and and then we kind of lose ourselves when we start to set the boundaries. Well, then the person that has the addiction or going through recovery is, whoa, this is different, right? It's kind of like the person that sees you going to therapy before you see yourself going to therapy.
Yes, they start to realize.
Well, we have a question here from Daniel, and it's, I'm interested in the connection between adventure and resilience. How has travel influenced your perspective on growth?
Well, I was literally, it's such a redundant word. I mean, obviously I was literally driving. Why would I not be literally driving? But I was driving on a road called 22X to a place called Bragg Creek. I do sessions at a retreat center, and I had to slow down behind this log truck a few weeks ago when I was driving, and I was getting a little bit irritated because I want to get to the client on time at this retreat center in the town of Bragg Creek. Yet there was an owl that was on a guardrail, and if I wasn't going slower behind that log truck, I would not have seen the owl, and I was able to watch that owl actually fly away from the guardrail across the grass to the tree line, the start of the tree line, and actually was able to be slow enough when I was driving by to see his head, peering back at me. At first I thought that's a big freaking bird. Oh, okay, it's an owl. Yeah. But that's a piece with growth. And as far as traveling in a car, at least with this perspective, a big part of growth is being able to know when to slow down. It's okay to slow down and see the scenery, to be mindful of what's going on with feelings, with thoughts, with sensations. And that's what happened for me. I was able to look back and think, yeah, I would not have seen the owl if I was going 120 kph up here in Canada, kilometers per hour. And that's something there. Now, when I do hiking, when it comes to like growth, I'm sometimes by myself, sometimes with people, and just being able to have that experience with them, this experience we both had together, and having that time together can be special. Yet also, there's a lot of awareness that comes with hiking. When I was hiking in a Grotto Canyon a few weeks ago, with a friend, Lawrence, hats out to King Larry. He, there was a lot of rocks, a lot of big rocks. It's like basically like, it wasn't like just a flat trail. There's like rocks everywhere. So a lot of awareness on where I'm putting my foot, one step in front of the other. And so, yes, when it comes to growth, there might be some shaky rocks, there might be some firm rocks, yet awareness has to be there when it comes to growth. Awareness of, yes, what I'm feeling, thinking, experiencing, awareness of what memories are coming up. Yet also know what direction am I going? Like what's the direction? Like what's the end game? Now, it doesn't work with the metaphor because really there wasn't a necessarily end point on that trail. It just kind of kept going. Yet at a certain point we had to say, okay, we've had enough. And that can be a part with growth too, is saying to ourselves, yeah, that's enough for today. I've exercised for 20 minutes. I'm good. Or I've been able to, have a good coffee conversation today with someone. I don't have to go to a party tonight. I've had my fill. I'm good. So I think a good piece too is knowing that limit when it comes to growth.
Well, it goes back to the limits, right, of self-care practice,
Yes.
setting those boundaries and taking a moment to have that time for yourself, and
Yes.
growth doesn't have to happen in one day. We can take our time.
Yes.
So Eric, if for anybody who would like to grab your books, if you'd like to hold them up again and spell out your website so people can find you and the services that you offer and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So this is the Martial Art of Recovery and Buried Alive, and my website is www.recoveryartscounseling.com. That's counseling with 2 L's since I'm up here in Canada. You can find me on Instagram, Eric Fisher Writer, or Recovery Arts Counseling on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn if you put in Recovery Arts Counseling and or my name, Eric M as in man, Eric M Fisher. Yeah, you can find these on Amazon. Yeah.
And Eric, what's your final message to everybody today?
Seek out one way to cultivate self-compassion for you today.
Thank you so much. Get a little deeper into that because I'm going to hold you.
That could be as simple as, hey, I'm going to go to bed at an earlier time than what I did last night. Maybe I don't drink that coffee, like gasoline to the fire right when I wake up. I'm going to wait at least 60 minutes if I can. Have a little bit of water with some maybe lemon and ginger or something, and then I'll have the coffee a little bit later. But yeah, it could be, I'm just going to reach out maybe to someone today that I haven't talked to in a while, or that I usually talk with, and just have a quick chat or leave a voicemail. It's just being able to find one way to connect with yourself and somebody else, or even a higher power, God, So,
well, thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this conversation with you today, and all of the guests that tuned in and brought your amazing questions. Thank you guys so much. I could not do this without all of you guys. My printer beside me is just, I'm telling you, glitches are going on in this room. But I'm just going to do a recap of what today's tea time was, give you guys a little food for thought and all that good stuff. And I'll see everybody at 9 p.m. tonight. We have pushed the show to 9 p.m. With Zachary Hagan. So be sure to check out at 9 p.m., not 7 p.m. What a powerful and inspiring conversation today. Eric, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and the deeply meaningful lessons found within both your professional work and your personal story. Today, we explored resilience, recovery, trauma, grief, healing, and the remarkable human capacity to keep moving forward even when life feels overwhelming. One of the strongest takeaways from today's conversation is this: adversity does not get the final word. Through Buried Alive, you showed us that even the most frightening and difficult circumstances can teach us something about courage, determination, connection, and hope. Your work reminds us that healing is not about pretending pain never happened. Healing is about learning how to carry our experiences while continuing to move forward. You also reminded us that none of us are meant to face life struggles alone. Support, community, self-awareness, and asking for help are not signs of weakness. They are signs of strength. As we close today's tea time, I leave everyone with this thought: what if the very challenge you are facing today is preparing you for a strength you have not yet discovered? Because being buried by life is not the same as being defeated by it. Thank you, Eric, for reminding us that resilience is not something we are born with. It is something we build one step, one choice, and one day at a time. Until next time, keep healing, keep growing, and keep serving real life tea, one conversation at a time. And today's takeaway is you are stronger than your circumstances trying to bury you. With support, purpose, and perseverance, it is possible to rise, heal, and move forward. And I'll see everybody at 9 p.m. with the next tea time. Thank you guys all for tuning in.